There we go, Matt. We're live. Jared told me you had bottles. Do you have bottles? You ready?
I'm ready. I got bottles.
Go for it. New Warriors come out to play. Whew, I'm glad I got through that because my voice is not is not the way I need it to be right now. But don't worry, we're gonna make it through it. Let's get to the script, everybody. Hello, welcome to Come Out to Play, a New Warriors podcast. I'm Delvin, aka the Dark Web. If you're watching this via YouTube or whatever where you're listening, we'd love for you to hit the like and subscribe button. We have a guest tonight. He is a Crusaders Club member and he is a nurse up in Washington State. His name is Matt Poisso. Welcome to the show, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I kind of parlay my nursing into nursing instructor now, so I kind of help make new nurses along the way.
So not only are you a nurse, you're a nurse and a teacher. You must be applying for sainthood at some point here.
No, just trying to earn a paycheck.
Well, either way, thank you so much for your service. A lot of times you get service members, armed forces, but man, I mean, you have folks in the trenches like nurses and teachers, and both of those are noble professions that very much have my respect. Welcome so far to Heinz Cook and Trey Black. Hope y'all are doing well. You're new to the show. I had to ask you that, and you're like, yeah, I've never been on the show. So I got a couple questions for you. Number one, what was your introduction to the New Warriors?
So my introduction to the New Warriors was way back in the day when they first came out, because I was a child of the 80s, 90s. And I think the first thing I really remember of them is Speedball. Because he popped up in Spidey and the annual and everything. And I can't remember what my first issue was. I think it was probably one of the first 1 to 5.
Okay.
But once I saw that, I was just like, I like this team. I was always a team guy. I loved X-Men.
Yeah.
And so seeing a new team of teenagers, I was sold. I was on board with that.
Yeah, I get that. Me being a kid, well, grew up in the 80s, but like also grew up in the 90s too. At some point, I ran across New Warriors, like the idea of it. And I can't remember at this point, chicken or the egg thing, whether I saw New Warriors, like New Warriors. And then at that time, I was kind of relatively new to Amazing Spider-Man 2. I know Amazing Spider-Man was my first comic, my first mainstream Marvel comic. My first Marvel comic was Transformers. But at some point early on, Mark Bagley pinch hit for Eric Larson on Amazing Spider-Man. And I can't remember whether or not I had seen him on New Warriors and then was like, hey, I remember him, or I saw him on Amazing Spider-Man. And then I was like, okay, I like him, and then saw him on New Warriors. One way or the other, like, it led me to collecting New Warriors. But this isn't me questioning myself. This is me questioning you. One more question. If you had a choice, could you give us your ideal team of New Warriors and why?
For me, I mean, I have to go back to the original 6 members. Just, I've loved them as characters and watching them grow. And just, I want more from them. I want to see more adventures of them together. I know in one of the newest reboots that they did, it had Vance and Speedball kind of as mentors for a newer generation. I thought that was really cool. Yeah. And I would almost be fine with that, with like a completely new team, but I would still want to see what the original 6 are doing, like the new Night Thrasher series. Yeah. Give me more of all these characters.
Yeah, like I certainly keep hoping for that myself, you know. Yeah, there's a little bit of talk in the New Warriors thread I'm on, and New Warriors talk thread I'm on in Facebook, and somebody almost verbatim copied an idea that I said a couple years ago. I'm not saying that he copied it from me, but I should say that he just had the same idea. And it was like, yeah, like, why don't they just rebrand the team the Warriors very much like the Teen Titans back in the day
Yeah.
became the Titans. And it's like, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe Marvel doesn't like money, especially at the point of, you could have a nostalgia act going on. And I think it very much could work. But, maybe that's just me. Courtney Holland chimes in, hey, Delvin and not Jared. Courtney, this is Matt. This is Matt Poisso. He is a friend of the show and also a Crusaders Club member as well. And he's pinch hitting because Jared just abandoned, the team. It was like 5 minutes before the show, and Jared was like, "Screw you, Delvin. I'm not going to be on." This is not true. You're going to take me seriously if I say that. So I'm not being serious on that. Jared had to step away for this month, and he so kindly got Matt Poisso to come in and pitch it. And I'm grateful for Jared and Matt, of course. Hello to Eric Porter as well. So let's keep going. Come Out to Play is a chronicling of the 1990 series, The New Warriors. The first volume of New Warriors ran 75 issues. It's hard to believe we're already more than halfway through. We will cover all of this first volume as I rediscover my love for the series, help others find theirs, and share our love and joy with the listening audience. Grab your skateboards and bucket helmets. It's time to play. You know what? Normally, Jared has a question for me. I didn't put that in the script.
I've been here before.
Okay, so did you have a question for me?
I thought about it because literally, I got the bottles. I thought about getting the fake mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't go that far, but since this comic takes place kind of all in space, what is your favorite space-based comic?
Man, I really don't have one. It was funny. When back in the day, I feel like I've told this story any of 100 times. I would go to the grocery store with my mom, not because I had some affinity for shopping or anything, but this was a much purer time in our world or society or whatever. She'd go. Go to the place called Food Max, and she'd go do the grocery shopping, and I would immediately beeline to the comic books, and I read every comic book that they had there. And I always liked the terrestrial comic books more than the space, because they had Guardians of the Galaxy back in the day with, Vance Astro, who, they explained, some futuristic version, clone, cross with the enzymes. And I'm not going to remember exactly how that relates. But I remember reading, it was like, eh. But that said, I will, if it's kind of a cheat, but I'll pick Infinity Gauntlet. The original Infinity Gauntlet was a really good idea in that it was one of those first Marvel, everybody was in its storylines. At the time, it was more rare than it is this year. Because it got to a point where they were doing a big universe-spanning event once a year, which almost was too much. But back in the day, it wasn't that much. And Infinity Gauntlet was one of the hugest ones. And Thanos came out and was just a complete badass and destroyed the Marvel universe at one point in his efforts to appease death. I remember that because I think Ron Lim drew it as well. I can't even remember who wrote it, but I remember Ron Lim's artwork in that. And so I like that a lot. So
I thought for sure you'd go for Transformers.
I don't count Transformers really, even though I do get what you're saying, especially we're not at that point yet in Transformers Chronicles. We're very close to releasing 50. And once you get fast forward about 10 years or so, every now and again, they'll go back to Cybertron, but it's been mostly Earth-based. Eventually it's not going to be the case. Cover your ears, Pat. It's not going to be the case. And so I do see where you're going with that. So I could have had a layup, but I opted for a 10-foot jump shot instead.
I appreciate the difficult answer because in reality, I'm kind of the same way. While I enjoyed this issue, the space stuff has always been kind of on the fringes for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So. Yep. And that was my thing when it came to the MCU, actually. For a long time in the MCU, they kept it terrestrial. And I actually understood why, because it's all right, we go out to space and people are going to what? What's this? And there's a different planet. And then sure enough, like they ripped that Band-Aid off right around the time that Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and it turned out to be very good. We had a couple of people actually chime in on that. Let's see. I've probably missed a few people. Courtney said hello to you, by the way, because she is an awesome person. Eric Porter happens to mention it's his birthday, so his wife is taking him out, so he's going to listen tomorrow. So hopefully he hears this tomorrow. Happy birthday, Eric. I hope that it's well and that you are loved. Let's see. What else? We had somebody answer the question. Jason Lady came in. What's up, Jason? I hope you're doing well, man. MVP Kathy came in and says hello to us as well, and she spoke to everybody else. Scott O'Neill actually answered the question about the space saga, and says for him it was 90s Exo Manowar. He dug the 90s and the Modern Guardians and Nova's ongoing, but Exo had the killer juxtaposition of Conan-style simplicity with high-tech space. I love that contrast. I never read Exo Manowar.
I did not think about that, but yeah, I have to agree with Scott on Exo Manowar. Think basically like Conan meets Iron Man.
Okay, cool. Who drew that? Was it Barry Windsor Smith?
I think he did some. Bart Sears did some.
Okay.
It was Valiant back in the day.
Gotcha.
I've got a few of them.
Yeah. See, if you're ever invited to Crusademus, then that'd be a good one for you to bring, because you'd be like, Delvin, have you read it? I'd be like, no, I have not read it. Trey Black says post 0 hour Legion of Superheroes for him. And let's see. Let's see. Is there anything else? Jim Mill is new to the chat. Hello, Jim. Welcome. And let's see. Because our fans always help us out. It says Jim Starlin wrote Infinity Gauntlet, and Ron Lim took over. Ron Lim did not take over as writer, I don't think. But help me out on that, because I know Ron Lim was an artist, but I don't know if Ron Lim ever did any writing. Whatever. And then Jason Lady adds, my favorite space saga is X-Men going to fight the Shi'ar. We won't. Jared would absolutely disagree with you on that.
Fairy tale part, then he would really lose it.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. Jared also said that he left a cover for us. I was like, Jared, can you leave us something? And he said he left a screenshot of the cover. Let's see if I can find it. If not, then I'm just gonna bring that sucker up myself. Yeah, like that's what we do when Jared's not here, Matt. We just bring it up. Oh, here it is. There we go. We're looking at the cover now, and Matt is going to describe it, but very quickly. I'm just going to mention that we're covering New Warriors 42 today, and cover credits go to Derek Robertson and Larry Malstead. And Matt's going to describe the cover for you all.
All right, well, I'm going to do my best knock off Jared for you guys. So if we work our way down from the top, we see what passes for a corner box in this era. Personally, I really miss the time where there was like different art every month, but I do kind of like seeing that classic Marvel Comics logo. We also see above the red and white New Warriors logo is that this is the Starlost Part 3. And I'm using some of my critical thinking skills to know that it's a New Warriors logo behind it, since quite a bit is hidden by what we really came here for. Front and center on this month's cover is a massive mid-fight scene between Nova and Firelord. And if you weren't aware of that, the little circle down in the lower left spells it out for you. Firelord is giving Nova all he's got, swinging down with his fancy fire space baton. The contrasting blue in Nova and yellow on Firelord really make this pairing pop off the cover for me. It kind of almost feels like a loading screen from a video game. They've also continued the recent trend of the border around the edges, and this time the triangle of the logo is repeated inside over and over again, and we get a nice semi 2.5D effect from Nova overtaking the border and the logo. Delvin, what did you think about the cover?
And you were worried that you're gonna do bad on that. No, that's fine, dude. I like this cover quite a bit. Let's see. Hold on. I usually hold the cover up so people can know that, I'm not some New Warriors pretender. I got all these books, baby. So, yep, I like this cover. Like, I've said it quite a few times in the past few months when it comes to Derek finding his rhythm. Like, he found it. He completely found his rhythm when it came to the Warriors by this point. Like, Fire Lord looks dangerous, but cool. And and up to his name, and the colors just popped perfectly. The covers pop perfectly. The ink spot perfectly. And Nova also looks dangerous. Like, Nova, at least as we know him, probably is outpowered by Herald of Galactus. But he looks like he is up to the challenge on this fight. And for whatever reason, you're like, man, could he beat Fire Lord? I don't know, but this cover would have you considering it for certain. And I mean, for that reason, I like it. Again, I'll take the banner down just so people can see this beauty. It's a fantastic cover. I just love it. No backgrounds needed because the two characters are just so big and dynamic and they stick out. So I like this very, very much. Let's see. We can start rating it. We already got a few people rating it already because they know how this works. MVP gives it a 9. Says it makes her want to open it up and read it. And Jason Lady adds that it's a nice portrait of Fire Lord in action and gave it an 8. Says well drawn but not earth shatter. How dare you? How dare you? I'm kidding. You can rate it however you want. Courtney Holland gave it a 9. Says no more lines. What do you rate it, Matt? What would you rate the cover?
For me, with this one, I do like it. It definitely grabs your attention, but I would give it an 8 because I have to knock it down one, because even though we do get a fight inside, it doesn't match what we get inside. And when you read the issue, you will see that.
Yeah, I got you. One more. Trey Black gave it a 7. Says art is great, but doesn't pop like the last two covers. See, I disagree with him on that. While I don't think this is a 10, I give it a 9 because I don't know. That Fire Lord is the first thing that just catches my eye, and I'm like, that is a well-drawn Fire Lord. And the Nova is not lacking either. And just something between the colors and the inks plus the pencils, they were just humming at this point as a creative team. And I give, and that's credit to just, two amazing artists, Derek and Larry, combined with, they never give the colorist credit on the issue. So I don't know whether it's the colorist from the book or not, but all three of them combined to make a great cover. And around this time, I just feel like they're really humming as a creative team. One more rating. Scott O'Neill gave it a 9. Says, I think they wanted to up Nova's power level. So your comment about Nova being able to take on Fire Lord is on point. First issue of the Nova ongoing had him defeat Gladiator to show his new levels. So we haven't gotten to that point yet, but light spoiler of sorts. We're going to get to it by the end of describing this book for certain. You have the script up, right, Matt?
That I do.
Are you ready to read the creative team and stuff for the book?
I can do that.
Go for it.
In New Warriors 42, it had the on-sale date of October 26, 1993, cover dated of December 1993. Cover price, $1.25. I miss that. I miss that a lot. The story was by Fabian Nicieza. Breakdowns are Derek Robertson. Finished pencils, Brandon McKinney. Inks, Larry Malstead. Colors, Joe Rosas. Letters, Chris Eliopoulos. Editor, Rob Tokar. Thanks goes to Mike's Amazing World for that information. Delvin, hit us with the synopsis.
I'm going to get to the synopsis in 1 second. Going to do a few more things real quick. And Jason Lady just adds, Nova almost got a bit too powerful for the New Warriors. You ask me, that's one of the reasons that they haven't brought him back to the, that they wouldn't do a New Warriors, is because they're going to be like, yeah, he's too powerful for the Warriors. I'm like, again, the Titans have freaking not only Troya or Donna Troy, but they have
Starfire.
Thank you. I was like, Xandarian, not Xandarian. She is, jeez, Tanagarian?
I can't
Tanagar.
remember that off the top of my head.
Oh my goodness.
But
Thank
I
you
mean,
though.
between Starfire and Raven,
Right. Starfire, Raven, and Donna Troy, they are all like, if there aren't A-list power, they're at least A-minus list power. So, I mean, if they could do it, the freaking New Warriors can, or the Warriors can. So,
it just lets you have stories that are higher stakes.
correct.
So
And yeah, so like, and it's like, and heck, they even at this point, at least the latest issues of Nightwing that I've read, and I'm not super up to date, but it became an Ersatz Titans book because he moved the Titans Tower to Bloodhaven, and now they protect the city. And it's like, oh my god, that's such a pure, brilliant idea. Anyway, Scott helped us out, and it is Tamaranian Gesundheit.
thank
So
you.
yeah. So I don't know, like, man, who knows? Maybe some Marvel somebody is listening to our humble little podcast and it's like, yeah, because of this podcast, we're totally gonna redo the New Warriors. A man can dream. All right. Synopsis. The title of this book is Powerful. We come to a definitive conclusion in the story of the Starlost, but we definitely see some interesting twists in the lives of not only Nova, but Namorita and also Vance Astrovic. So we're going to talk about it. We don't have the normal images that Jared shares. That is Jared's little touch to the show, which is always appreciated, but it's okay. We do have a discussion, and I can bring up some pages if we need to. But Matt, let's start us off. Like, what did you want to talk about first on Warriors 42?
Well, the first thing that really jumped out to me was I love getting to see Firestar cut loose. She is ridiculously powerful, and it's awesome to see them remember that. But you know, even since like way back with Spidey when she was just one of his amazing friends, she has been one of my favorite characters. And that is the exact scene I'm talking about. And another great thing is how Speedball has all the confidence in the world that Angelica can pull it off.
Yeah, Speedy wound up kind of being the team cheerleader / narrator of this book. And he did a good job. And I liked this part of the storyline where, like, you know, one of the things they repeatedly mentioned was that Firestar was almost afraid of her powers because she was afraid that she would either hurt someone or possibly irradiate them. And so those, you know, that last one, that safeguard is gone, you know, being out in the vastness of space. And so she was able to completely let loose, and she did it quite a few times. Last issue, she hurt Supernova. Supernova seemed relatively untouchable to the point where Supernova saw her coming and laughed at her. And she was like, okay, laugh at this. And it hurt them. And this time they were like, okay, well, we can't use any power from our ship, but maybe you can power this Stargate Firestar. And she's like, huh, I can? And yeah. Yes.
She's like, can I? Yes, I can do this.
Poof. Yes, she can. She absolutely can. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I, for some reason, heard something go out of, thought my ears buds went out, and they may have. But if you can hear me, I'm going to keep going. So,
you're good.
So, speaking of power, like, not only did we have Garth and Saul at the start of the book, you know, they started out with a great double page of Garth and Saul and how he looked just ridiculously powerful. And they've already explained that. But then, you know, that little small guy in the corner there is Rich Rider. But in a few pages, because you had Supernova basically say, you know what, like, we're doing this thing, we're gonna jumpstart the powers and restart Xandar. He went ahead and basically merged all of his power into the spirit of Xandar, which was Rich Rider, which became here.
He turned into Element Firestorm.
Yes. And so we have another villain, a hero who had to deal with the responsibility of having great power. Did you think anything about that by any chance?
Yeah, I kind of appreciated that he merged and immediately became like a massive solar powered angst battery.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
you gotta fuel it up. Oh my god, I don't know what I'm doing.
And it's towards the end of the book, but you know, the great reveal there, or a great reveal, was Adora finally came back. Or she had came back last issue, but she came back and Nova was looking like he might spiral out of control, maybe. But as soon as he saw Adora, he was like, and she, gave some Fabian Nicieza added, dialogue to it. Like he came to his senses, and then rather than getting drunk with the power, he wound up doing the right thing. And then Xandar's world computer came in and said, we picked you for a reason, dude. Like we knew, like you are our fighting spirit. You were the best of us. We knew that for the small time that you needed to handle this power, that you could. And reading that really kind of, warmed my heart a little bit, because it just really spoke to the hero Rich Rider was.
Yeah, I appreciated that they were like, yes, Garth and Saul, I think I got the name right. I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Yeah, you did.
But he had the power, but Nova actually had the spirit, the soul of it. And that was really cool to see that. And it kind of also went to show that without like the spirit there, without any kind of soul, you can have the power, but you might go a little mad.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something to be said about that, not only in comic book world, but in real life for sure. A couple comments from the thread. Scott O'Neill says, Speedball's character development in this series was amazing. His powers isolated him from his friends in the 10-issue Speedy series, and the Warriors became his sole social life in a lot of ways. And then adds more jokingly, I love Derek's artwork, but if I bent my back the way Rich did in that page, my back would be out for at least a week. It's like, it's okay. Like I do the same thing if I get on pre-energy, man. You can recover pretty quickly. Let's see. Eric Porter mentions that Firestar lets loose in space, just like in issue 6. And Scott added, and then they combine into a silver Xandarian with a green mullet. Yeah, gotta have the mullet, right? And then Jason Lady adds, in Transabal, she cut loose and destroyed all the bad guy equipment. That was one of the first times on Earth that she kind of just sort of let her emotions get the better of her in a sense, but she let go as well.
But I think
what else? Go ahead.
I think that does a good job of showing like they could handle higher level threats.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt, there are powerful people on this team.
Yeah. Even from the very start, even though it wasn't as powered, they faced Terrax, which that is a Herald of Galactus, also like that, no small threat at all. So yeah, they're capable of doing great things for certain. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Matt?
Yeah, I was really happy to see Marvel Boy back. He was one. Him and Speedball were my two go-tos, always in the comic. And to see him back and that he's getting out of jail soon, but I'm also kind of curious to see where Namorita's story is going. I remember bits and pieces, but I really don't remember much of this. So, like as I read along, it's gonna be new to me.
Okay, let's talk about Mr. Astrovic first. Let's see. I could probably expand out a little bit and feature myself, but like that's a lot of dancing, and like you're just gonna have to live with that image. People looking at it. What happened in the book is that it seems like due to some pressures for how prisoners have been treated, and some activist groups sort of got together, and it advanced Mr. Astrovic's prison sentence by about 3 months, meaning that he is going to get out in 2 days. So, I mean, that's something I'd be pretty dang happy about. That's for sure. We haven't seen, I mean, we've gotten a peek here and there, and then we had a story a little bit back about a prisoner, Astrovic. and how he is sort of balancing between, his powers and his responsibility, and how that works out. So we've seen some maturation going on with Vance, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens when he gets out. He came in as Marvel Boy, but he did something that a lot of superheroes, to include his own team, they tried to break him out, and Marvel Boy's like, no, this is a thing I did. I have to pay my penance for it. And I tell you, that's noble, because somebody with the power that he even had, even then, he could have been like, nah. Mike, and if you remember, his dad basically was very abusive to him. And finally, he just lashed out to a point where, he basically killed his dad. And it could have been, justified. He could have just said, no, I didn't mean to do it. But like, my dad finally forced me into it after years and years of beating me. But nope. He said, I did the crime, so I will do the time.
Yeah, that cover in that story is one that's always kind of stuck with me. So it's just like, to see him like, no, I'm going to do the right thing.
It speaks to his moral fiber. I hope that in later iterations of Vance Astrovic that they kept that, because very much like Spider-Man, one of his biggest heroes is Captain America.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, if you're going to have Captain America as a hero and you're going to try and emulate that man in any way, you better be willing to stand on your principles. And I think that he has done a good job of that. Like, he went into prison, he served his sentence, and he was an ideal prisoner. Now, let's talk about Mrs. Prentice here. She doesn't seem like she's doing too good. Last issue, she basically tried to knock down the doors of Atlantis looking for Namor, and then doubled over in pain. They weren't going to let her in because they were like, yeah, we got this thing that went on with clones, and your clones. So, and right when they're about to give her the bye-bye, they got to the buh, they didn't get to the bye. Then she doubles over in pain, and they're like, quote, she's suffering from something similar than what Namor suffered from. Okay, so they kind of like put her in stasis of a sorts, but it looks like, and I'll just read a little bit, says Namoritas appear to be causing a complete reconfiguration of her genetic makeup.
That's
my lord. I think that's very dramatic, right? Like, if I went to the doctor and I'm like, hey, doc, something's wrong. I feel like my stomach hurts a little bit. I feel like it might be a flu. It's like, no, it's going to be a complete remake of your genetic makeup. Like,
it's just 2 stomachs now. It's okay.
That's not okay. Unless that means I get more protein and I can get more muscular. I take it. But I better not grow something like a second freaking forehead or something. I'm going to be pissed. So, right. So, it looks like something's happening and she's turning into something. I don't know. I guess we are going to see. And now would be a good time to mention, because we chatted about it a little bit. Right after this page, first off, it started off with this thing about Punisher War Journal. That seemed actually pretty cool. I didn't read it, but that seemed pretty cool. And then, for some reason, I just think that this was not good.
It could have been like 1 issue later.
Right.
2 issues later.
Right. Yeah. They came out with this thing called Juice, and it was spotlighting the New Warriors. And if you stopped and read it, you saw exactly what the heck is going to happen to Namorita. I'm not going to say it here, but Matt, you had some thoughts about that.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see that, because they also dropped a couple hints about another character that someone got on me about spoiling something unknowingly when I posted a picture.
Go for it. I forgot already. It's been a busy week.
That would be the newest Vance Astrovic figure. Yeah. But yeah, it was a really cool little segment. It was done almost like an article out of a magazine with interviews with the new Warriors, and it almost read like not quite like them to me at times. It was almost a little too MTV Real World, trying to put on, like, take their character to 10 or 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was curious about this, if this was like a real magazine. So I like looked up Juice in 1993, and it was a skateboard magazine. That there was also like later on a hip hop magazine in Europe that was Juice. So
Oh.
I'm like, did they know that when they went in making it? Or they're just like, nope, we just need a name for this here.
Yeah, Juice was also a movie in the 90s as well. It
Yeah.
had Tupac Shakur in it.
Yep.
But it wasn't that type of juice. That juice was basically like a gun. But then
Yeah.
but actually what it really was a metaphor for overall was power and respect. So
Mhm.
in any
But,
event,
but,
we're not talking about that. Keep
but
going.
there was one cool page in it that, without spoilers, it did have Speedball's take on how the New Warriors really formed.
Yeah.
And you got Thrasher and Nemrita going, not quite. No.
Yeah. And that's the comedy relief of Speedball that you very much come to know and love for him. So,
For sure.
yep. Let's see. Is there anything? I'll read a couple of comments from Scott O'Neill. Says Vance was the embodiment of early 90s SF. What does FF mean? Like Super Friends? Sci-fi? He mentioned Sequest, Lois, and Clark. He's the wholesome wait until marriage, idealistic innocent who has to reconcile that with the not so innocent stuff he's seen, which kind of falls in line with a lot of the things of the New Warriors when you think about it. When this issue first came out, more from Scott, I remember being so convinced that the doubling over issues would be revealed as her being pregnant with Ashu's kid from the one night stand. Ooh, that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know how babies then all of a sudden they ruin series, right? Like, but you know, so that would have been interesting had they made that take, because it would have been a very adult theme for the New Warriors, and a lot of times they talked about controversial themes. Auburn Elvis joined the chat. Welcome, Auburn Elvis. Did Nova die? Technically. Yeah, like he technically died 2 issues ago too. Much like he technically died this issue as well, but he got better. Have we missed anything, Matt? Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Just one other small thing. I did appreciate that how it all worked out in the end, and the Green Lantern saved Oa. I'm sorry. Nova saved Xandar. Sorry.
It is totally different, Matt.
Oh, totally. There's no lantern.
Yes. See,
Yeah.
there's no lantern. That's what. There's a computer, and that's different from the lantern.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that would be a bigger difference. Like the Owens. Like I don't think that the Xandarians had any equivalent to the Owens. So that would probably be the like difference to where like DC is. It's like,
but it always stuck out to me. Like, you got the Nova Corps, you got the Green Lantern Corps, and it's just like, all right, what we got going on here?
Yeah, for sure. It is. There are some similarities, even though Nova didn't have like the cool ring. Nova's power is more akin to more like a Superman, except not as OP as Superman. So it will be interesting in the future. It's worth mentioning because one of the things that I just remembering loving about the New Warriors, like this was 93 when this came out.
Yep.
So I was 16 in 93. And like most teenagers, I was going through changes too. And I just think, this last page of Nova like being triumphant, we already talked about how Adora and the world mind computer essentially of Xandar, they both said, you were our heart and soul. Like you're like, even though you're born a human, you are a Xandarian in spirit. And we knew that you were the person who could hold on to our Xandarian spirit and bring us back. Like they showed all the faith in the world in this young man. and he delivered. And that was awesome. And then his reward at the end, was he was promoted in rank in the Nova Corps, and he was given the absolute respect that he was. And yes, comic book wise, it was a launching point into his new series. But what I liked about it as a 16-year-old was it was just super cool that he had that redemption arc from feeling like he was just a gym rat loser, that wasn't really doing much, to figuring out that, what, even if I lost my powers, even if I died, then like I died as a man helping people. Like that says something to, the 47-year-old me now, much less as a 16-year-old who was evolving, trying to learn, who he was, et cetera, et cetera. So I just really like that redemption arc.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you see like 2 issues ago, he's going on a date, not able to tell her like, oh no, this is who I am, this is this. And now he's Nova Prime.
Yeah.
He has earned it. He has shown kind of what was in him the whole time, but he just needed that little push. It was probably a big push, but he needed that push.
Well, it's surely a part of Nova's evolution. When Nova started, he did not have his powers. And Night Thrasher went off of a limb and just dropped him off of a building, and it triggered his powers. But since then, his arc has been nothing but a maturation arc, very much like Speedballs in a way. Speedballs came in his powers, a little bit of responsibility, but Nova absolutely has gone from just kind of being this lunkhead to having these leadership qualities, and it's been admirable. Scott mentions a comment, and I'm not going to go into it super much, but I wanted to read it, and I'm going to give an opinion. And Matt, if you want to, you can too. He says, I never really got the whole heart of Xandar thing. Like, didn't he quit the war to go home? Now, I don't remember the full Nova backstory. I know that at one point he had the powers. He did fight in the Xandarian War. And then, by the time this story started, he had been completely stripped of his powers, or at least he thought he had.
Oh, you're muted.
And Jason Lady adds, Scott True and, if you really care, they took his powers away. So, I just want to mention, sometimes people take war for granted. And what I mean by that is if you participated in a war, technically I did. I was deployed to Afghanistan for 6 months. And I'm not going to sit there and put any valor on myself that I didn't have. I was, working on an intel floor, and I'll even go further than that. I was essentially a project manager. I moved the intel cell from one floor to the other, and I did some project management work and stuff like that. So I didn't have a gun, and I wasn't out shooting at the bad guys, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of my 178 days, I went home. If somebody would have asked me the questions well, why didn't you stay? It's because I literally was told to go home. Back years ago, many, many years ago, you would have people that say World War II, for instance. Once you went over to the war, you weren't going to come home until the war was over. Mm-hmm. The result of that being that a lot of people, let's say, weren't in the best of conditions. So when I see about didn't he quit the war to go home, that word quit just kind of strikes a little bit of a nerve with me, in that soldiers now, especially nowadays, they're not supposed to be at the war until the war's end. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely, even retroactively, quote unquote, forgive Nova, because he served in a war that wasn't even his. Right. And so I think that took an incredible amount of courage, and that absolutely speaks to his fighting spirit, that even if he were supposed to go home voluntarily or involuntarily, that I could see why they would chose him to have been the fighting spirit, because he picked up a war that was not even his own. And to me, that's admirable.
And I think that's kind of, I don't know much about the Xandarian War, but I kind of feel like that's what the heart of Xandar means. Like, he was willing to go and help their people, even though he wasn't of their people.
Right.
So they knew that he would be there for them. So that's kind of where I get that.
And sure enough, it's a good conclusion to the Starlost storyline and issue 42 as a whole. It came full circle in that once again, they basically said, okay, we want you, because they hinted this in 41. They're like, if I give up, the part of my spirit that is Xandar, then won't I die? And they're like, maybe. And he said, okay. And he did it. Like, I mean, I personally think that you couldn't possibly have been more noble than that. So, I give him a lot of credit for that.
And that part in the comic too, that's where you see that he comes back to being him and not that big rage battery anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He dials down to Rich again.
Yep. So. For certain. All right, I will do this part. We're going to move on to Ultimate Warrior and Ultimate Worrier, who stood out in the book and who we're worried about. So by all means, in the comment section, if you want to talk about who you thought stood out in the book and who you're worried about, please let us know. But I'm going to ask Matt, who is the Ultimate Warrior to you on New Warriors 42?
So the Ultimate Warrior for me, I mean, the obvious choice is going to be Nova. Not only did he talk like the Ultimate Warrior when he charged up with that energy, I was waiting for load the planes with the jet fuel and all that, But he knew there was a chance he wouldn't survive, but he held on to enough humanity to do the right thing that he was fine with it. So to me, that's why he's the Ultimate Warrior this issue.
I can agree with that. If I had to do a runner-up, I'd say Firestar for continuing to exhibit amazing powers out in space, almost to the point where it'd be like, can we do more missions in space? I'm kind of a badass here. But she would get runner-up, but Nova, this has been Nova's story, and he absolutely deserves to be Ultimate Warrior for this book. Who are you worried about, Matt? You worried about anybody in the book?
Well, there's obviously two people that we could be worried about this issue. We kind of talked about one already, about why it could be worrying. I'm going to go with the other one, and I'm going to say Marvel Boy.
Okay.
He seems excited to be leaving the vault, but will everyone on the team welcome him back? How much have they moved on since he was actually locked up? What's the world going to think about him? Will they accept him as a hero again? So that's kind of where I'm worried with him is, can he get back to his previous status quo?
Those are great questions. It's almost like you just, completely front loaded, any primer for New Warriors 43, to be honest with you. I'm worried. I'm more worried about Namorita. I mean, she seems that she's had a rough go at it. If you look really over a whole arc, she's kind of had a rough couple of years, and it's culminated in her basically being overstressed, and to the point where now her genetic makeup is being changed. So I'm kind of worried about that. We will see what winds up happening to Namorita as a result of that. We had a couple comments. Scott O'Neill says Warrior is Nova, runner-up is Firestar. Auburn Elvis says that he's worried about Jared. We all are, man. You came in a little bit late, but he just had to not be here for this month. But he'll be back next month. I'm very certain of it. Scott O'Neill's also says Warrior's Nita, runner-up is Vance. Just like Game of Thrones, when good things happen to a Niciesa character, you just know it's about to hit fan for that character. And let's see, Jason says Warrior is Nova, Warrior is Nita, and Jason Lady added also that he appreciates hearing my point of view on this. There's no secret, me being a prior service guy, a current veteran, a retired veteran, I definitely have my feelings when it comes to service, just in general. One of our main tenets as far as LONGBOX CRUSADE goes is that, we keep things on the positive side, and we definitely try and keep things, keep a political bent out of things. So any of my comments were just really more reflective of me and just what I feel about service in general, and definitely not meant to be anything political whatsoever. And I hope that I reflect that. So we have Ultimate Warrior done, and now we're going to rate the book. We just talked about New Warriors issue 42, and I need to see some ratings in the comments. I'll start off. I've been asking Matt to go first. Man, for this issue, I'm going to give it a 9 as well. I was thinking 8, but I'm bumping it up to a 9 because it touched on a couple of things. The idea of service, the idea of sacrifice, and the idea of redemption overall. If Nova were a friend of mine, like in real life, I would be extraordinarily proud of him. He was handed an immense deal of power, and he could have immediately just went mad with it like Garth and Saul did, and he didn't. He held on to it, like even in a face where he could have just immediately raged out and fought the Shi'ar Empire in essence, and maybe he could have been taken out, maybe not, who knows? But he kept it. He kept up the front enough for Adora to come and talk sense to him, and he released that power, and he completely revitalized the world. All of those redemption arcs and everything else I mentioned, I give it a 9. I think it was fantastic. It was a very good story issue and a very good story arc for Nova. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I definitely have this one down as a 9 as well. It's a good finish to these 3 issues, and it sets up a couple of plot points for a returning team member and one who's missing. The only thing I'm kind of where's Rage? Was there a reason he wasn't there? He was literally his head was on the front page, but that's neither, But it made me really want the next issue ASAP.
I can't remember. I can't remember where Rage is. I can't remember.
Are we secretly worried about Rage now?
Yeah, I honestly can't tell you what happened to Elvin for these 3 issues. I'm certain there's a plausible explanation, but I can't remember. So if somebody does remember right before I read the wrap up, remind me and I will read it. Jason's confused. Jason, lady says, did Rage go into space with him? I don't know. I really don't. And I will end on one comment for Scott O'Neill. It says it shows the range of possibilities with this team as well. They just wrapped up a street gang story, then jumped into a cosmic battle, all while setting up mutant and Atlantean art. Just goes to show you how freaking awesome the New Warriors are. And some writer needs to pick it up. Bendis needs to pick it up. If Bendis did it, they do it in a heartbeat. And I know Bendis would do it well.
He's in DC now. Yeah.
Is he? What's he doing in DC?
Oh, he's been in DC for a couple years.
What is he writing right now?
I think Superman, maybe something.
No,
I don't know.
That was years ago. Anyway, we'll answer that question. We'll answer the Rage question, and we'll answer the Brian Michael Bendis question offline. Ladies, gentlemen, that is the show. Come back and join us for the next episode where we discuss New Warriors issue 43, where Vance Astrovic, Marvel Boy, returns. It is Marvel Boy, right? If you'd like to hear more from us, the LONGBOX Crusade is in a lot of places. You're saying something, Matt, but I'm going to keep talking. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anything from you. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, most podcatchers, to include Spotify at www.longboxcrusade.com, Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram. You look for LONGBOX Crusade, we are there. We have a Patreon feed, much like Matt Poisso. He is a Crusaders Club member. He joined at a higher level, but you can join at $1 a month if you choose. We've been grandfathered in. We love to have you. We're at 46 strong right now, and we love to get up to 50 of where that would trigger Jared and I having to watch some movie of some sort that we haven't decided yet. But you know what? We'll think about that once we get to 50. You get us to 50, we will be watching a movie and we will release that content for Crusaders Club members first and foremost. YouTube as well. Please like and subscribe. If you have not gone to YouTube and liked this podcast or this live stream and subscribe to us, you're incorrect. And I don't want you to be incorrect. I hate to set anyone up for failure. So please go to YouTube and like and subscribe. You can email us as well at contact@longboxcrusade.com. Normally there'd be a phone number scrolling across, but it's 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX. I don't think we've had a message yet for Come Out to Play. So if somebody wants to leave a message for Come Out to Play, we will find a way to air it on the show right here. So it will be saved for all of posterity. And my script here says, if there is a guest, and there is one. So I have to thank Matt for being so awesome, being a great co-host, and coming on at the last minute and doing an outstanding job. Thank you so much, Matt, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. And if you want to talk about where you can be found on social media or anything that you might want to plug, now is your time.
Don't really have too much to plug, but I do a little bit of toy photography and talking about comics from time to time, posting some pictures. You can find me pretty much anywhere social at SerpyMatt.
Sweet. You can find me on Twitter at DEE_RAY1977. Instagram, if you want to, at Delvin Ray. That's it, everybody. See y'all next time. And remember, be a hero to somebody, even if it's just to yourself. Until next time, New Warriors, come out to play. Yay. And everyone, I hope you have a great night.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you, guys.